Who's got the best defensive group in the Metropolitan Division? Let's take a look at that next. Yo ho everybody, and welcome to another edition of Yinzer on Hockey. Before we begin, make sure you go down below, hit that like button, click the subscribe button, and make sure you click that little bell so you stay up to date on all the off-season happenings. So we're going to continue on with our positional power rankings today. Today we're going to take a look at the defensemen for each team within the Metropolitan Division. And this is kind of me ranking them based on expectations for the coming season. This isn't a historical ranking. This is kind of a foreshadowing type thing where I'm going to rank them as to how I think they're going to produce in the upcoming season. So number 8 on my list for the Metropolitan Division is the defensive core of the New York Islanders. Their defensive core is led by Johnny Boychuk and Nick Leddy on the first line, Ryan Pollock and Thomas Hickey on the second pairing, and Adam Pelech and Sebastian Aho, the other Sebastian Aho, on the third pairing. This isn't overall a very bad defensive group. I think they have a lot of potential offensively to add to the production that the Islanders are going to need to add to replace the loss of Tavares, but just they're not quite there defensively yet to be up higher on this ranking list. I think Nick Leddy is very solid, and Boychuk's not a bad defenseman, so that defensive pairing is probably going to play a lot of heavy minutes for the Islanders. But beyond that, there's just a lot of development yet to be had for the Islanders' defensive core. But overall, the whole Metropolitan has a pretty good defensive groupings, and I think this is going to be one of the strong suits of the Metropolitan as a whole. But I think the Islanders, until they start to gel and produce on a consistent basis, I think that right now they're the lowest ranked defensive pairing. Next up on my list is the Pittsburgh Penguins. They have a very good defensive group, a lot of great puck movers, but I think the over-aggressive nature of the Penguins' defensemen leads them to give up a lot of odd man rushes and a lot of just misplays in the offensive zone, bad turnovers, things like that. And this ranking can certainly change if Chris Letang comes back to full health and starts producing like most expect Chris Letang to produce with regularity. Brian Dumoulin is a very good counterpart to Chris Letang because he plays so well defensively. Olli Maatta and Justin Schultz on the second pairing. This is one of the better second pairings, I think, league-wide. Justin Schultz had a lot of injury problems last year, so if he comes back healthy, he could be, a guy that gets you 50 to 55 points from the blue line. Olli Maatta, there's just always question marks with Olli Maatta. His skating ability isn't the greatest. He's not the fastest guy on the ice, so there's a little bit of a knock there. I think if he is content to play a stay-at-home type defensive role and let Schultz be the offensive guy in that pairing, then this pairing might be, one of the more recognizable pairings for the Penguins in the defense. Third pairing is Jamie Alexiak on the right side with Jack Johnson on the left side. Until we know what we're getting from Jack Johnson, I can't rank them any higher because last year in Columbus was a massive disappointment for him. He didn't quite perform up to the expectations. He moves the puck very well, blocks shots, plays very sound defensively for the most part, but again, not very productive on the offensive side. Alexiak is the primary physical presence for the Penguins organization as a whole, so that's going to be his role again this year. So we'll see how this pans out. The talent, if you just look at a list of names, this is one of the more talented groups of defensemen, but the product on the ice has shown different over the course of last year, and until I see them meet the expectations that most people have of them, I have to keep them ranked this low. Next up on my list is the New York Rangers. Top pairing Kevin Shattenkirk and Brady Shea. Neil Pionk and Mark Stahl on the second pairing. Anthony DeAngelo and Freddie Claesson on the third pairing. Again, this just goes to show how deep the Metropolitan is on defense. Like, they have such a great group of defensemen in the whole Metropolitan. Brady Shea with that new contract in New York, going to be a very productive defenseman for them. If Shattenkirk comes back healthy, it's possible that New York outshines expectations this year if Shattenkirk is healthy. Mark Stahl has been very up and down throughout his entire career, so we'll see how that pans out for him. It's really hard to say with New York. They've got a very good first pairing. Second pairing is reasonable, and the third pairing is just an unknown. So they could skyrocket up this list too, but it's really hard to project at this point, but I think they've got the potential to be pretty good. Next up on my list is the defending Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals. First pairing John Carlson and Michael Kempny. Second pairing Matt Niskanen and Dmitry Orlov. Madison Bowie and Christian Juice in the third pairing. Bowie is probably going to rotate in and out with Brooks Orpik. Even still, I like Orlov more as a first pairing guy. I think that's where they used him primarily in the playoffs last year, playing alongside John Carlson. And I kind of like that lineup a little bit better. Kempny kind of had a resurrection year last year after the trade deadline, coming from Chicago to Washington. So Washington is pretty deep on the blue line. Carlson is obviously one of the better defensemen in the NHL. I think he has potential to be a Norris candidate. Probably should have been a Norris finalist last year, but kind of got snubbed a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. There's not much more I can say about Washington. I think this is a very good group of defensemen and are, probably one of the more well-rounded groups in the entire NHL, top to bottom. There's not much of a drop-off from the first pairing to the third pairing. Even if you substitute in Brooks Orpik for Madison Bowie, you can switch these guys around. They pair up really well. So I think they're going to be a very deep group. Next up on my list is the New Jersey Devils. First pairing Sami Vatanen and Andy Green. Second pairing Damon Severson and Will Butcher. Third pairing Ben Lovejoy and Mirko Mueller. This group, I have them ranked this high because New Jersey is always one of the more defensive teams in the NHL. Obviously, last year they didn't get a lot of production, even from their forwards last year, because Taylor Hall had outpaced the entire team by like 40 or 50 points. So they rely a lot on their defense to win games, and this is a group that plays very solid defense. Andy Green obviously getting up there in age a little bit. He may drop down the lineup. You might see Will Butcher in that top pairing for most of the season, and he's been a very good defenseman so far in his career at a very young age, able to move the puck and still play pretty sound defense. I like this group top to bottom. Like another group that's pretty interchangeable. You can move Lovejoy up to a top 4 pairing. You can move Mueller up to a top 4 pairing. And both of them are can play that type of minutes, have the ability to play those harder minutes. And I kind of expect that more as the year goes on. I look for Andy Green's minutes to drop down a bit and some of these younger guys to get more minutes on this blue line. But like I said, more for this ranking, it's just more of their defensive ability. They're very good defensively, play sound defense, and I like the group as a whole. Next up on my list is the Carolina Hurricanes. First pairing, Justin Falk and Jakub Slavin. Second pairing, Dougie Hamilton, Calvin DeHaan. Third pairing is Brett Peach and Hayden Fleury. This is a young group of defensemen that play very solid defense, can add a lot to the offense. I expect these guys to move around until they find some comfort with new guys like Dougie Hamilton and Calvin DeHaan both coming in. They're probably going to mix and match their lines until they find something that they're pretty comfortable with. But all in all, this group, depending on whether or not Justin Falk is traded, whether or not Justin Falk is traded before the season, remains to be seen. But this group is built for success in the long term. They like this team, Carolina as a whole, their organization is very young. They're building towards the future. The new ownership group wants to put a product out there that's successful, not just for right now, but for years to come. And it's kind of shaping up that way. So this defensive core just adds to that value that they have in youth and skill. And I think they are going to be one of the more productive blue lines in the league. Next up on my list is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Top pairing, Seth Jones, Zach Werenski. Second pairing, David Savard and Ryan Murray. Third pairing, Marcus Nudavara and Gabriel Carlson. This group is, the top pairing is probably the best defensive pairing in the NHL. For my money's worth, this is the way I see it. So, when you have a pairing that good, you tend to want to keep them together, but you also want to have that ability to balance your groupings. And I think that's something that you could see Tortorella explore throughout the season. Maybe moving Murray up to the top pairing, or, moving Savard or Nudavara up to get them to play with these elite defensemen. And again, I think both of these top pairing guys are elite defensemen. So you could see a lot of mixing and matching here, but if I was Tortorella, I would leave this alone because they are one of the better groupings in the NHL. And I don't see much need to change. They're balanced. They play great defensively. Seth Jones has the potential to be a Norris-type guy. Werenski is very skilled for a left-handed defenseman. And he's proven that in just his couple of years in the league. He's put up numbers, plays great defensively, was one of their more productive blue liners in the playoffs last year and the year before until he got hurt. But all in all, this is a great blue line, and this is what's going to keep Columbus in the playoff conversation, even if they decide to trade Panarin. So this group of guys, very talented, and I think that they're going to continue to develop, continue to blossom into one of the most elite blue lines in the entire NHL. They're not quite Nashville level good, but still, they're definitely in that top 5 conversation, I think. And the group that I think is the most impressive blue line in the Metropolitan Division is the Philadelphia Flyers. Top pairing Andrew McDonald and Ivan Provorov. Second pairing Shane Gostisbehere, Robert Hagg. Third pairing Radko Gudas and Travis Sanheim. This group is very, very good. I don't like the way Daily Faceoff has these pairings set up. I think Gostisbehere is going to be that first line guy. He's going to be eating up most of the minutes. McDonald's probably more of a second pairing, third pairing type guy. Gudas has potential to be, also a top pairing guy. Like, he's got that ability to play those heavy minutes if needs be, if the situation presents. Hagg, I think, plays very responsible defense. Not a guy that's going to light up the score sheet per se, but a guy that plays very good defensively. Sanheim, another guy, plays very well at home. Provorov, I think, is one of these young guys that is going to showcase as one of the future guys in the NHL. I fully expect him to have a breakout campaign, especially if Gostisbehere moves up and those two guys play on a pairing together. These guys are going to light the score sheet. And I think that Philadelphia right now, on paper, is one of the scariest teams in the Metropolitan Division. They're a team that could break out and run away from the pack in the Metropolitan Division. They've got that type of skill, top to bottom. The group that we're going to talk about tomorrow is where questions will arise, but forwards, defense, coaching, I think, is very good in Philadelphia, but all in all, the potential is there for Philadelphia to be a very, very good team this year. But for my money's worth, this defensive group for Philadelphia is the best in the Metropolitan Division. And we'll see how the year plays out. Things could be different, throughout the year. We'll revisit this probably around the quarter pole, see where we're at then. But let me know in the comments below, who is your favorite defense in the Metropolitan Division? Where'd I get it right? Where'd I get it wrong? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Follow me on all the social media listed in the description below. And until I see you again next time, have a good day.